Celui que tu veux. Ah, tu veux le bleu?
The blue one. Then I'm all blue. So I'm wearing a blue t-shirt. That was a bad idea. I'm not working at Google, so if in emergency, do not follow me. I have no idea, okay? Thank you for having me. I'm Nicole. I am gonna try and share with you today some of my lesson learned or takeaways. You know, it's a very dynamic field we're in, so I'm not gonna share with you any big truths, I think, but I'm just trying, thank you so much, trying with some of the experience I've had to kind of, maybe give you some perspectives, give you some thoughts, questions, some decision that you're having on the day-to-day, hopefully. In the last 3 years, I've been working with learning and AI. So first off, I'm not a tech AI aficionada. I enjoy it for the sake of learning, which I think it can help us. That's why we're here today. But yeah, I've been working at different angles at the intersection of AI and learning. I've been building AI academies and AI awareness programs for companies. I've been consulting edtech startups, edtech scale-ups on what does it change, what's the deal now that we have AI, what does that say for their learning and product teams, and specifically for the learning design teams, because the job is changing completely. And I also took part of research action in France, where we published kind of like a white book that's called Cap IA. And basically we interviewed 33 training organizations and 10 AI solution providers in France to kind of see the maturity of what they were doing, the good practices that we could share. And so I'm going to try to sum everything up and give you some of the takeaways. I definitely invite you to take some notes because I'm going to speak like that all the time, very speedy, because I have so many slides and classic. So if you have questions, just write them down and then we can use the time after, okay? All right, so that's my, that's my second slide. So my first takeaway, I'm going to discuss this thing of AI by design and how we can focus on outcomes when we want to drive innovation in learning. When I talk about AI by design, I think when we saw in the research and also with all of the companies that I accompanied, there are basically two kind of ways, right? A lot of them are using AI to augment what they're already doing, the current learning experience, the current workflows. And I think that's kind of you're crossing half of the bridge. But then for me, the other side of the bridge is AI by design. And I'm gonna go into details of what AI by design actually means. To me, at first, when I've read AI by design 2 years ago, I was like, okay, what is this? Because I don't want to look at it from what can AI do, all the features. We're going to get lost there. We apparently see that it can do almost everything, yada, yada. I also don't want to think about it as a completely off-ground innovation. You know, the classic CEO taking a shower and having a eureka moment, calling their teams and telling, we stop everything, we do something else. That's also not what AI by design is, okay? What is AI by design actually, for me or for all of the interviewees that we also talked with, is really this question on focusing on their beneficiaries' jobs to be done. And before I move on, maybe my question on jobs to be done is, are you aware, by raise of hands, are you aware of this framework or not? Of jobs to be done framework? No, okay. Oh yeah, kinda. Little hand. Okay, yeah, thank you. Go for it. Cool. Okay, then I'll try to go briefly, but we can also discuss that in the workshop after. And my second question is, who here in the room would say that they love learning? Okay, cool. Well, I like the meh. Yeah, I'm also on the meh. I'm actually going to confess to you, I'm an educator and a teacher and a learning designer and a learning strategist, whatever, for more than 10 years. I don't love learning. I'm living in Germany, in Berlin, so the thing I'm learning right now is I have to learn German. Right, it's not easy. I mean, I love the language per se, but this is all the way to say the. Okay? And I mean, I'm French, so that was hard also in French, but I was a baby when I learned French, so I didn't have to think about it, right? No, I have to actually learn, oh yeah, okay, which one am I gonna use? I hate this, right? I don't love learning. But what I love is that I can go to my neighbor and get my package and have a chit chat about oh, what's the weather like in German? I love that I can call the Renteversicherung, so the retirement insurance, and I can sort my way out in their administrative tricky process in German. I'm doing that in German. Yeah, I know. And I think this is my way of explaining you what jobs to be done is, right? The focus that you can do when you do innovation with AI is on what is actually the outcome in the real life of the person, and not so much like the process of it. I mean, of course, we need to focus on the process of it as well, but focusing on what is actually that they are trying to achieve would help us to have the boldest bets of what we can do with AI in the future. So if you think about it, my jobs to be done, and this is the structure of the jobs to be done framework, if you find that is useful, it always goes with a situation, a new ability, and then the emotional and social outcomes that it brings to your beneficiaries. So, and I use that framework a lot in my clients' interventions because I feel like it just redirects the conversation on what actually we're trying to achieve, right? So for me, it would be when I interact in daily situations, I want to understand and respond in German without friction so that I can feel confident, included, and build relationships locally. Still trying to date in German, this is hard. But why am I talking about this? To give you an example of how it works in education and learning. I had a client, actually, he was working with IT technicians, so that was his job, right? So he wants to implement for IT technicians learning with AI, okay? And his key issue was, we have senior IT technicians, they're great, but they're gonna be retired soon, and all their knowledge are gonna go. And he was approached by AI providers, and the first thing that he came up with was an augment solution. My senior IT, they're actually not trainers. They don't really have time. No, right now they're doing it during brunch, lunch. And it's not really helpful to provide all of their knowledge by doing trainings. So what about we take all their knowledge and we put it on an AI e-learning generator, and then we have really nice library of content, and then we can have this knowledge forever, right? And this is an augment idea, and it's not that bad of an idea, right? But then we focused on the jobs to be done. And I tried to really do the work with interviewing the beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries are not the senior IT technicians, but all of the other IT technicians are going to stay. And when we realized what their job to be done was, it seems like their job to be done was not, I want to learn from a senior based on e-learnings. It was actually, when I'm on my work and I face a request I'm not fully confident about, I want to still be able to handle it with minimum support so that I can feel like legitimate and I feel like I'm moving forward and I don't have to always escalate to the IT senior technician, right? And so once we focused on that, we built something completely different. What we are trying to experiment now, so I can't tell you like it had a 10 times impact yet because we're building it, but it's having the knowledge of all of the tickets that the senior IT technicians actually answered and getting it on a chatbot, classic, where you can actually ask and query the requests, right? So you're on the job and you're having a request coming in that you cannot do, and instead of escalating, you're gonna ask on the RAG. And we also have a non-AI thing, which is we have the jobs to be done here that is about legitimacy and feeling confident in the job. So we also do like peer-to-peer, like kind of peer programming, but for peer ticket resolution. So this is the test project, but I just want to give you an example how we come from a very nice non-dynamic library of content that nobody has time to watch on the job to a tool that they can actually use, focusing on the jobs to be done. So that's my first point, is asking ourselves, and I'm saying this like I feel like even if you're in your project for 10 years, you still have to ask this yourself every quarter. What is your product hired for by your beneficiaries? And how is actually AI serving that job? My second point is a bit of an important one for me because I realize like we're in this new world now, obviously, where you put your like random thoughts and they make you a very nice summary, or you put your experiences on a voice note and it gives you a beautiful CV. And that's nice. That's very seamless. We love it, actually. The human loves that. It's like the frictionless. But the thing is, for transformation, maybe for learning or for transformative behavior in your life, actually friction is a feature. It's not a bug. And what I mean by this is like if we do cognition offloading for everything we're trying to improve in our life, we would tend to not grow skills. What I mean there, so this is a study that came out last week or 10 days ago by CMU, University of Oxford, MIT, and UCLA. It's still being reviewed, so still in progress. But this is the study where basically they had two groups of people, one group without AI, one group with AI assistants. They didn't have a really nice educational AI to support them, just ChatGPT 5. And they were told, okay, you have to solve fraction problems, so math. And so they did like 12 problems, and then at the 13th, they took off without warning the AI assistants. And what we get to see is that the group that was AI assisted had a lower solving rate than the group that was not. But we also get to see that they were having a higher skipping rate. So meaning they're merely becoming worse at the task, but they also stop trying. They lose grit, right? And I think this, for me, is a very interesting example of how we are responsible when we build educational tools and transformative tools and transformative initiatives to think very carefully about where we want the effort to be for our beneficiaries. And we have in learning science for 50 years concepts such as desirable difficulty or cognitive load. Cognitive load saying, okay, there are some cognitive load, we're using this a lot in gender studies, but it's actually a lot in learning as well. Cognitive load, there are some noise that you don't want in your experience. Like, I don't know, if I want to sign into your app and the button keeps moving, except if you're like helping me for like eye mobility, this is not helpful, right? This is definitely a cognitive load we don't want. But there are actually some cognitive load that are absolutely necessary if you're trying to bring someone from A to B as a transformative process, because that's going to support them in acquisition of behaviors, of skills, and also on long-term memory. And that means really encoding in the brain, right? And I think for me, the last thing that I wanted to discuss on this one is the fact that now we're seeing that the deliverables are always neat and nice with AI, but that doesn't mean we see the behavior change, right? One example for this, for me, I think is the CV maker. Like if you're having beneficiaries and you help them make their CV with a CV maker, I think this is nice. I hate doing the CV. But then we also need to take the responsibility of, okay, what were the cognition skills when you do your CV? Like your structure, what matters actually in your experience. Maybe you have your storyline already planned in your head because you have put all together the different skills and the different experiences that you're going to talk about. Meaning, like, you still need to find ways to prepare them, because the next step after the CV is, well, they would just go to employers and they still have to present and structure their experiences and their storyline, right? So just to keep that in mind, the friction is a feature, and that we need to be actually really consistent at calibrating the challenge that we're giving. We're giving to our beneficiaries. Do I have time for another example? Maybe. I want to just give you another example on. In Germany, actually, a Berlin-based company who is doing leadership coaching. So they basically do group sessions where there is a coach. Maybe it's on conflict management or on communication skills. So they work together as a group. They get some of the core guidelines of what would be good in a situation to do. And then they move on to peer-to-peer sessions. So they put them in breakouts, 2 people, and they have to rehearse a conflict, let's say. What they realized is that the challenge, obviously the behavior change, the challenge is happening when they are in the role play, right? If you're in the coaching session, it's like so super nice and comfy. Oh yeah, we should do this when there is a conflict. And then the challenge is when you actually are in the role play. Obviously the real challenge being when your manager yells at you in real life, but that we don't want to try to do it in that secure environment. But they realized, okay, there is the challenge there, But the challenge right now is so hard. Like when people leave the group, they actually don't like feel very at ease to start having the sessions of the role play. And so the role play were kind of a bit dumb, right? So what they put is that they chose to put an AI, but instead of just putting an AI bot to chat with, they didn't like replace the challenge. They put it in between. So now they're going out of the coaching session as a group. They have 8 minutes with an AI chatbot where they can rehearse. And then they go to the real challenge, which is actually like having a human, right? Because if it's conflict management, this is what you want to test. You want to test somebody closing their laptop while you're talking to them and they just decide they're going to quit the meeting, or somebody like rolling their eyes, right? This is the type of behavior change that you want to see. So I guess that's also an example to tell you, like, I find it super interesting when we focus on where is the difficulty, how we can smoothen it without removing it, and make sure that it stays super meaningful for our beneficiaries. So that's the second question. Which moments of difficulty in your experience are actually where the change happens? And how do you make them meaningful? Maybe smoothen them because they are super hard, or maybe them keeping them difficult but intentionally. And my third point is about, it's actually a thing I've seen a lot when I was discussing with the different, in the research action, when we discussed with the different learning organization, it was this building for or building with. I'm going to give you a little example of this before anything. I was a camp counselor. Has anybody been a camp counselor before? You're like taking care of kids when you're 16-year-old in France. So you were a kid and you were given kids. And so I was in my first internship of summer counselor, and I was like super happy. I had my training, and and I had a group of 3- and 5-year-olds. And the guy that was working with me, he was telling me, "Oh yeah, we're gonna make them do a little theater. So we're gonna do like a puppet thing. They're gonna build it all." I was like, "Oh, cool, yeah." And I realized, oh yeah, this is an organization that is like popular education, like serious popular education. And so what I mean by that is they were having a very strong ideas on what learning for kids was, that they knew what they were doing. And he was telling me, yeah, so we're going to use utility knife. I was like, yeah, cool. Yeah, the grown-ups are going to use the utility knife. No, the kids are going to use the utility knife. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to give a 3-year-old a utility knife, so a cutter if somebody doesn't know what's a utility knife. This one, like, I checked the word yesterday because I didn't know there was a utility knife. And so I'm like, okay, we're giving utility knife to 3-year-olds. Well, they're just going to stab each other, right? Super scary. And then we realized, okay, no, actually, you can do that with the right level of guidance and obviously the right level of protection. And it's going to take 3 hours to cut a cardboard. And yes, it is risky and taking time, but they actually acknowledge. And when you tell a kid that is super dangerous, they are going to be so cautious to a level that is like the best programmer when they receive an alert on their app that somebody has like breached their security, And what I mean by this is you could definitely decide to build for, and I think we're actually getting pretty good at this in the product and edtech environment, of like, okay, we check the needs of our learners, we make them test our products regularly, and I think this is great, we're doing this. But I'm also seeing some initiatives right now that are building with. And I find that so interesting, especially with right now, everyone is already using Gen AI tools, right? They haven't waited for you to build a scaffolded, well-organized, optimal for learning. This is the 16 to 24-year-old all over Europe. They are using Gen AI tools poorly, most probably at some point, but they are already on it. And I think this is actually a great opportunity for us to co-design with and not only co-design for. I'm not saying like put 15-year-old in a room, give them lovable and run away. I think this obviously needs to be scaffolded and work with, but there are ways now that we can like live prototype and live build. And I'm seeing like some initiatives that actually are like that, then they are like super efficient in adoption and usage of their initiatives on AI for the reason that they are co-designing with their learners or beneficiaries. We're seeing like either it's like students committees, AI governance committees where there are actually teachers and learners involved. But we also see it for like actually like just events like hackathons with the learners and so on, where they can actually build some bits of the solution that could be the next AI innovation of your product. Keep in mind, obviously, you need to have your own guardrails. Obviously, you would need still educators and tech people and like double checking where is the data going and so on. But in terms of prototyping a solution that actually matters to them, I think there's a lot to learn on putting them on the driver's seat. And yeah, so that's my point on the question. Before your next initiative, how do you think you could actually get your beneficiaries into the room as co-designer and not only as testers? I don't have a very strong example on that one, but I'm just like so excited by this idea. I'm like really trying to like reach out to any of the clients I'm working now to be like, can we do it? I really want to try because I really see so much potential on the stories that I've been told. Okay, this is my fourth point. I'm actually really good on timing, Oda. Yeah, cool. First point is ethics as an everyday compass. That was quite shocking to me how when we discussed with the different learning organization, they saw ethics. I'm not actually even sure I pronounced that word right, but this is the word, right? I'm saying. They saw ethics as like, you know, you hire a PhD when you're an okay size of a company and they're gonna run ethical things for you, because honestly, it's even the word is Latin Greek word. I don't know. It's scary, right? It looks very like far away. And then I did myself also like a responsible AI bootcamp, responsible AI for EdTech bootcamp. Happy to talk about that one actually later if you wanna. And I realized, okay, actually there are some organizations that are using ethics and their learning philosophy and their learning values as a very operational system to build their products. And so they don't have to go with like very like, I don't know, like a very fancy conversation about philosophy and life and how we see the world. I think this is great to have them. But sometimes you're just like, well, we actually have to give value to our beneficiaries tomorrow, so we're not going to have all of the big questions yet. But I see that like there are ways to actually use your learning value and your learning philosophy in building tools that can be super, super simple and operational. I'm going to give you an example of one company that I find super great that they use their learning values as a guide. They are in the UK, it's a UK-based company. What they're doing is they train adult learners to GCSEs, so the middle school examination, right? So you're having adults that either drop school or didn't go to school at all, and they train them to pass the exam of, basically in French, le brevet, and I guess in German, like not the Abitur, but an exam that was just before. And I don't know in every other country, but you have the idea of like 15-year-old pass an exam. And what they realized is people were coming to their live sessions. It's adults, right? So they have very busy lives, but they were taking the time. They were really like sanctuarizing the time in their calendars. They were active during the sessions. They learned the math concept. They learned the English concepts. They were able to do all the exercises. And then 5 days later, when they had to submit the assignment at home, nothing came in. There was no assignment. A lot of them did not submit. And when they digged in, they realized like a lot of the adult learners were going home thinking, oh yeah, we've done it in the lesson, I'm gonna be fine, and completely freeze in front of the task, completely lose confidence that they can do it, and actually just like give up on the whole thing. And so they decided to work with an AI chatbot where they can basically like, it's a tool where they basically, you would put what you, either you put some question because you don't know where to start, or you put your first version that you drafted, maybe manually or writing it on a computer, and you would scaffold you towards a better assignment so that until you can actually submit it. And what they did is, okay, their values as a company was definitely like pure kindness and making sure that there is self-confidence growing in their adult learners, they realize this is really a blocker for them to go and pass the exam. And also, so they use that value first to like build tone of voice, build a very scaffolded experience where they would be able to celebrate the success in a very authentic manner, because you're not talking also to kids being like, yay, bravo, you made it, right? Like you're actually talking to adult learners that took half an hour of their super crazy life where there are the kids running and they are still trying very much to do it all. So they really scaffolded with their values of kindness and celebration of small outcomes. And as well, they had this very much learning value that they knew that for their adult learners, it was so difficult to trust the system, to trust the school system. And so if that was, even if that was instant feedback, if they had an AI feedback giving them their evaluation on the assignment, that didn't work for that crowd, for that audience, right? They felt very much like, okay, I'm just evaluated by a robot. So what they chose for this project is that they actually chose, sorry, clicked too quickly. They actually chose to make sure that the tutor would still be the one providing the feedback and that the AI tool was actually up to submission. And obviously, on the side of the tutor, they would have access to all of the history of the conversation, and so they would really be able to emphasize the progression, the effort, and also making the link with what they have in the class as live interaction. And so I think that's a great example for me of like, oh, you can do ethical choices without having to read every single document on AI ethical governance acts. And the last point, sorry, going on the wrong side. The last point is actually pretty connected to this, is this idea of like how we're getting intentional when it comes to AI. Whenever we add AI, how we make sure we also add humans, or at least find ways that there are still humans in the loop. And I find it super interesting to see this. I see it with my clients. I also find like we see it in the news right now. Like I want to share with you this. How many of you are actually knowing Khan Academy? Yeah, right. So Khan Academy, Sal Khan, I'm not even, I don't want to throw tomatoes on him. I think he's trying his best as well. But 2023, that was the presentation of Khan Mingo, so the AI tutor, right? And that was meant to be revolutionary, right? The feedback was, okay, we're going to have the biggest positive transformation in education. Everyone is going to have a tutor in their pocket 24/7, and that's going to just change the way learners actually learn, right? 3 years later, he himself would say it was actually a non-event, right? It was like I would enter a classroom, sit at the back of the classroom, and wait for people to come to me and ask me answers. Well, students are not doing that. And he said, okay, I just actually view it as part of the solution now. I don't view it as the end-all and be-all. And he adds, we need more human support. And I was like, duh, obviously, right? If you've read about the Matthew effect in EdTech, it's exactly this. But I think it's still a good reminder because there are really cool players still that are still doing this type of mistakes, and I think we need to tell that every day, right? The EdTech Matthew effect is this idea that even if you have access to technology, it doesn't mean you have access to making learning technology meaningful, right? And so basically it goes on, if you give technology to people, it doesn't make them more, and specifically on equity, like it says like, you're not changing the barriers to equity of access when you're giving technology. You need to give the human supports that goes with. And definitely that's what they are doing, right? They're getting into the Microsoft Suite education, and they're trying to reach more and more teachers so that they can help them integrate the tools in the classrooms, which was obviously the smart move in the first place. So what I want to say about this, yes, I think it's super important for us to see how we can have tech, but we can also have human support. I think this is a thing that you are mostly convinced for all of you. And one last example that I have right now is like I'm doing a lot of AI employee training. So like supporting and scaffolding the internal academies of clients on how they can build skills in AI tools and AI awareness. but it's really hard to make them think about what does that mean from a manager perspective and a structure perspective, right? Because people are going to gain skills, they're going to be able to use the tools, but what does that mean for their job? And this is something we need to actually like prepare, right? Because once they know, oh yeah, actually I can do this task in like half an hour instead of 5 days, what do I do next? What's my purpose again? Like, and there are so much more we can do, right? I think like most of you know that like there is so much more we can do. We just got to choose and channel it. And I think it's super interesting for me that we work on AI tools, AI skills, but we don't work on the human transformation that's gonna come up with. At least for some of the clients I have, it's really hard to go through this conversation. So yeah, that's my last point. A bit of a question on like where does AI scale your reach, and where does it risk replacing the humans that actually make your intervention meaningful, and then how we balance that, right? We want to give accessibility, but we also don't want like all our teenagers to fall in love with an AI because they're just having this all day and they're creating emotional bond. This is research. This is not me going like loco. And even us, we do, even at adults and with critical thinking, we actually do create bonds, right? Like we see one of the most usage being psychological and mental health well-being. It's important that we just be very intentional and we have those conversations. All right, so this is kind of like my takeaways, lessons learned of what I've observed in the field. How we can start from the outcomes and focus on the jobs to be done to actually create innovation with AI. How friction is a feature, not a bug in like any transformative experience, and therefore how we are very intentional on the difficulty we pick. How we try to build with, because that sounds messy, but also very, very much speeding up the way we can actually build meaningful experiences. How our learning values and philosophy can actually not just be nice posters in the room, but actually serve our everyday decisions. And finally, where do then put the human in our tools and initiatives? All right, question time, I think.
Yes. Okay. Maybe before that, a warm.
We can roll.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for that. We have quite a long time for questions now. So I don't know if some of you want to share. Anyone want to share a question? I can give the mic to.
I can throw this.
We have a throwing mic.
That's gonna like make the shy people actually excited. So ask the question.
Okay, maybe you can throw it to me then.
Okay.
I already have a mic. So there's a lot to be done with all those questions. I was wondering, like, how do you actually work with the teams? Like, who is involved into those discussions? Like, how do you implement them? Do you work with all the teams, only the pedagogical team? Like, who, like the business team, who is involved in those discussions?
Thank you for the question. It's actually my personal struggle since forever. I think when we do transformative experience, we need to bring a lot of different people at the table. I think it needs to be extremely multidisciplinary. And I'm seeing this, like for me, product and learning teams sometimes are very far away, that they barely talk to each other. I've seen it in action in many, many places. So they just run their own ways, their own lanes. So for me, product, learning, tech, whoever is representing your beneficiaries, maybe your teachers, maybe your students, maybe whoever represented audience that you actually have needs to be in the conversation. And also one that I think we forget a lot is like anyone who is in direct contact with them, like maybe like your customer success or whoever is in connection. They also need to be in this conversation, in my opinion. I think it's definitely is when we're talking about, because at the end of the day, we're talking about the value proposition that we're bringing, right? We're talking of the transformative experience that we are providing. And then it is the core of what you're doing. So it needs to be addressed with all different phases of the jobs that are actually supporting it. Yeah. But product tech and learning all together, yes, big yes, always.
Yeah. Question.
Thank you for. I'm not sure if. Yeah, it works. Thank you for your presentation. I was wondering if we're talking about AIs that can help students learn by empowering them to actually do the work, the friction work you mentioned about. What do you think would be the motivation for them to choose such a tool compared to just offloading everything to ChatGPT? Is it like pressure from the parents? Is it a different incentive or motivation? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's a hard one, eh? How do we motivate people? Like, I mean, if you have like a research on this, like you see that we cannot actually motivate people. That's pretty annoying, huh? We would love to. But I think there are a few actually answers on this, on like how basically you need to make something that is meaningful and close to them, right? So I feel like whatever change that we're doing, when you actually study also behavior change, you get to see that whatever is connected to a thing that you actually deeply need, then you would do the effort for it. What I mean by that is, for instance, like if I'm a 14-year-old and I have to give an essay to my teacher, and you know I don't care about it, I don't care about the topic, then of course I'm going to do cognition offloading and I'm going to ask ChatGPT, write my essays for tomorrow, by the way, and I really want to go out now. But if there are ways for, and this is at the question of also what the teacher can do, right? But if there are ways of like choosing the topic of the essay, maybe it doesn't look like an essay, maybe it looks like a presentation in front of people, and then you have also like the social query that makes it a bit more pressure, right? Or maybe then I can not do an essay at all, but I can like go and interview some people in the streets. And actually it's nice because I really want to do that job in like the local radio, and I can then go with an excuse and say, hey, I'm writing an essay on how local radio work, and then I can meet them and maybe network with them. And I think this is how we build the challenge on like what is actually mattering for the learners, and that gives us kind of like leverage to make them feel more entitled, to make them feel more that they can actually do it, and that they are, at the end, more motivated. Does that answer your question?
I think it's one tactic. I think the challenge is way bigger than that. But yeah, I think it's very valuable to transform the meaningless task into something that actually has some meaning to the young people, and that's a very good approach.
But I get you, like if you're in the middle, if like you cannot change the curriculum and the teacher, but you still want them to get shit done, right? You also need to probably use different levers. I guess that's where you're at, right? Yeah. Well, but you're going to tell us after how you do this, no? That wasn't a question for yourself, actually.
No, I think this is such a big challenge. I think all of, at least we have some experience in this, but and we have invested a lot, but it's still difficult.
Yeah, it is. It is difficult to make people like change behaviors and do things for themselves. Thank you for the question.
Thanks a lot for your presentation. My question is from a technical perspective. I'm working as a web developer, and I'm really interested with the AI by design framework, because as a web developer, we tend more on AI augment. Like we make a lot of things complex and time-consuming, and how can we just make it simpler? But can you do you have some words about how technical what can be a technical implementation of the AI by design in our own workflow?
You mean on a workflow as like
I'm a web developer. I'm getting an issue.
Yeah.
What will be a AI by design way of solve it?
Okay, I see. But you mean your issue is coming from the beneficiaries, or is it
Yeah.
a technical issue you're having? Okay.
Yeah.
And what are your beneficiaries right now?
I'm working for youth people from the suburbs that have the struggling finding the way in the working and post studies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're addressing individuals that are okay, I got you. So what would be AI by design on your query? I think what AI by design would be is trying to defocus from the technical aspect of what you're trying to solve and going back to the root of the problem. So let's say, do you have an example in mind or no? It's like I can try to build it up, but
Yeah. For example, well, in my high school, I didn't knew about that formation in university. I don't even know it. I don't know that one of my neighbors did it. And I want some role model that can inspire me through this journey.
okay. Well, you almost have already a job to be done, right? You're almost having AI by design here already because what I'm saying with jobs to be done is you're going to try to focus on what actually is going to bring the most value to your problem. And so maybe you're thinking, okay, I can put up together some inspiring videos or inspiring articles on how these people did their journey and how they did this training and how it changed their lives and so on. That could be one way. But you also see that maybe there is something about matching all the alumni from those schools to new potential newcomers. And that was a very hard technical work to do 5 years ago. I remember we tried to do matchmaking employers. We talked about this at Open Classroom at the time. It's a lot of technicalities then if you're trying to match people, right? And I think now if you're thinking of, oh, hey, I can actually do this. Oh, you can actually go and get all of the alumni, I don't know, scrolling LinkedIn's and getting, okay, this person had done that training. Here's the list of alumni and here's where you can reach them. Then you're using AI by design to focusing on solving the actual problems. Does that make sense? Is this helpful
thanks,
or not
thanks,
really?
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
I don't have all the answers, I have to say.
There are questions over there.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question about work creating for and ways, and how does it work? For example, we're building a product and we are foolish enough to know what end customer needs, and we're doing that. That we are doing building for. But building ways, how to understand the needs and how many people we actually need to ask, and they all biased. Mm-hmm. They have all their needs, and when to stop listening to them, and how to manage all the information we get from end users, and how to make it right.
Yeah, this is hard, eh? This is very hard. What's your beneficiaries?
Teachers and children.
Well, yeah, that's why you're asking the question. You're like, teachers. Yeah, I mean, my 2 cents is you got to sit in the classroom. If you're in the product team, you got to sit in the classroom. If you're doing something for the classroom, go there, sit there, spend a lot of time. Even not just talk to them on the phone for the 5% that said, oh, I'm a volunteer to discover about AI tools. Go in the classroom where it's fucking messy and there are 2 students waiting at the door because the teacher cannot handle it anymore. Honestly, I would say go to the classrooms, go observe, get to see them that are the ones that actually they don't even check their mailbox. They have 3,000 emails. So you said you want to do some tests of an AI tools, but you're not even at the back of their head. You're on the bean already, I think this is the ones we are actually trying to convince and trying to see what they are doing. I think you agree, right? Because the ones that are happy and enthusiastic and innovator, that's nice. That's a first step. We need them, absolutely. But they're also pretty keen already. So yeah, I mean, that's always my advice. And this is not a nice one. I know it takes a lot of time. It's difficult. It's not scalable. But it's really going where the problem is. If there is an actual problem in the classroom, and we know they are, we got to observe it and see it and actually talk to them. And you see some products that are actually really good at doing this. I'm seeing like obviously the very famous one is Kahoot. They have a huge community of teachers, and they've built it all with their teachers. Is the product amazing and transformative? Everybody can have their opinion, but it's used, it's working, it's supporting the audience, right? And they did this by actually going in the classrooms and giving it for free, but that's another topic.
Thank you.
Yes, we have time for maybe one last question. Two, if we go fast. One last question. No last question. One last question. Two last questions.
Oh,
It's very funny because I had the same question in my mind when my colleague actually raised his hand. So it's obvious that we share the same issue. Maybe I'll continue with his question. So would you recommend to work with the early adopters, those who are keen on it, or with the troublemakers, or would you combine these?
So I think first off, I'm making the trait of the troublemakers a bit strong, but I think there is a big often in between where they just don't know about it, but they're buzzy. They don't hate AI or they don't hate any edtech learning tools, but honestly, it's not on their day to day. They have 25 children or 28 sometimes in France in front of them. They cannot just handle it, right? But I think there is this thing of, there are two things you want to solve, right? There is like, you actually want to test your assumptions of your product and see that works. So you need people that are actually keen to use it. So of course, you still need to foster your early adopters. But you also want to see how much bias they were because they're already enthusiastic about the tech, because they're already enthusiastic about solving their problems. They're even already aware that they have a problem. And how big is that bias compared to the big chunk of the population which just doesn't even think about your tool, right? Because I think then if you're just building for this, it's gonna work great, but it's not gonna be working for a lot of people, right? Obviously. Like, I don't know, like this is I think the Khan Academy actually, like the research on Khan Academy is that it's improving outcomes very much for learners that are doing it as the training is should be done, which is 30 minutes a day. So you see very high outcomes of it. But when you see the amount of people that are doing it 30 minutes a day, the school students, it's 5% of the database of Khan Academy. So it basically doesn't change much of the outcomes, right? But when it happens in a good condition, it's insane, the results, right? I think, does that answer a bit your question?
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, thanks a lot.
Yeah, he has a side.
Okay. Thanks a lot for the beautiful presentation. We at Ma Voix also, we share a lot of common visions. We have a hybrid experience of AI and human. And now we are struggling in the retention phase to convince our beneficiaries that the system of the job to be done, to have these challenges, to give them also meaning. So for you, like, what is the best thing to convince them that this system actually works? Is it like we put on front first the human coach to present them the system? Or just first, like, for us, like, the experience is a chatbot that do the challenges? Is it like to put first the chatbot and then give them like personalized journey? So like, what are like the best first contact? Like,
how many hours do I have? I wish I had the answer for you. That I would love to be that person and be like, come on, do this, yada yada, would work. I have no idea. You know why I have no idea? Because I don't know your audience. I don't know how they behave.
Yes.
And this is specific, right? We cannot get one truth fits all. So for me, it's a question on like, what are the assumptions that you're testing, and where do you see in the journey that they are giving up, and why are they giving up, right? And this is hard. I mean, I'm telling you, we're doing very hard problem. We're solving a very hard problem, and it's gonna take a long time we solve them. Eh?
Yeah. But these questions, I can take them as an answer also. Like,
yeah, but I think I think it's super interesting that the intersection you're in, right, of the question on like what is it that you want to put in. You obviously also have the constraint, right? Maybe you cannot put like a human coach in front of everybody until they are more entered in the journey. Yeah. So I mean, we need to work with this, but I feel like then you need to test really what are the assumptions on like when do they leave, what for, why do they not stay, and trying to get your different tests here. Huh? There is not much more I can actually help you with. I wish I could.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you so much, Nicole. Just to inform you, we have time for one more question. Yes, François.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Can you give us an example about how you associate your beneficiary in design to design the EA solution?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one, right? Like, cause like, do you mean like how you co-build with them, how you co-design actively?
Yes, and in which part of AI solution it's only to define a value and or other.
Yeah, I mean, I think also again, it really depends on your beneficiaries, right? You're not gonna ask a 5-year-old like, oh yeah, what's the color of the button you would like for the app? He doesn't give a shit. I should not actually. Nobody cares actually, right? So obviously, on the details oriented of this, you don't need. Depends on your beneficiaries as well. If you're asking a teacher who is already using some platforms, like what are actually the order of tasks that they need to put because they're always doing it the same order, then maybe you need them to co-design with you the interface and the buttons, right? So I think for me, first off, it really depends on your beneficiaries and their interests and abilities, I would say. You need to still, again, like make it like accessible for them, right? But like with children, for instance, they are going to be so much more creative than the rest of us when it comes to actually solutioning the problems that they have, right? Or even not the problems, like just finding exciting ways to learn different things. But of course, you're not going to tell them like, so how do you want to learn? You know, nobody knows, okay? Even if we know, we don't know it is efficient for our brain. Right? You have people that say, yeah, I'm a visual, I'm a kinesthetic. That's not a thing. Like science doesn't prove any of those learning styles. It's actually unproven by now. But still, you have preferences. It doesn't mean it's more efficient for you, right? So just saying, sorry, I'm going all the sideways. But I think it really dependent on your beneficiaries. And it's really, then it's hard, but then you need to find a way to like kind of like scaffold an experience so that they come up with a value, right? I don't know. If you are... it's hard to find examples like this on live. Let's say you're building like an app where they like the students, the kids are learning through stories. They are learning like fraction problems or math problem. So they're going through stories. There are many ways in. And not only on like, okay, what type of story you want, and you know, like there are actually many ways where you can have them integrate on finding ways to reward them, for instance, which doesn't have to be just the points or whatever, like, or finding ways for them to, they would actually find ways to craft side quests, for instance, which helps you with difficulty levels. There are actually many ways where you can, give them the trust. I think it really depends, again, on your beneficiaries and what exactly you're trying to build. Okay. Sorry, it sounds maybe a bit generic.
Thank you. Well,
we can talk about it.
The good news is that Nicole is going to stay with us through lunch.
After water, please.
After some water. So if you want to keep the discussion with her during the break and during the lunchtime, please go ahead. Maybe the seats around Nicole are going to be expensive. So just
you can
go ahead and
roast me during lunch.
And try and get them. Thank you so much, Nicole, for this morning.
Thank you.
It was great. Thank you so much.